Evening. What's up, y'all? How's it going? Welcome to another Lockdown Live chat. As usual, joined with my awesome co-host, the purveyor of everything Dracona Media, Mr. Alec Lyle. How's it going?
Oh, good, man. South Africa's got that whole weird mining thing happening at the moment. So in Joburg, it smells a little bit like sulfur. My wife tried to blame me this morning, but we figured it out. So yeah, it's all good.
Well, luckily we won't have to worry about that because we're jumping across the pond, actually being joined with our first international guest, to be honest, actually all the way from Finland. We're joined today with Jani Stefanović. I'm going to butcher this name. Stefanović.
Stefanović.
I do apologize. Tongue-tied, fanboyed, all of that. You guys might know him as a man of many projects and many talents, but most commonly known for his work in the Scandinavian Death Metal project, Miseration. So welcome, Jani. Sorry for that little bump in the beginning, but we'll get better.
Thank you. Nice of you to have me, Stefanović. It was
Stefanović.
Yeah.
Right. So let's try to start a little bit broader, and we'll start getting into the nitty gritty. Like I said, you're actually based in Finland at the moment, so every country's been having a little bit of its own ways of dealing with this pandemic. So how have things been for you, number one, in Finland, and then obviously the Miseration camp going into this whole pandemic scenario?
Well, on a personal aspect, everything has been pretty good, like for me personally, because I've been studying. I'm studying programming and all these weird codes for doing apps and websites and all that. So for me, nothing has really changed because besides from not having to be present at the actual school location. But otherwise, my income has been stable and, school has been going on as usual. But on a family basis, it has hit us quite hard on my wife's part. Job's been really off and really difficult, and close friends, and the whole country has been, like many other places in Europe, total lockdown in last spring 2020. And so yeah, obviously it has affected in a weird situation where you have a 5-year-old kid who talks about wearing masks like it's a everyday thing. So yeah, it's a pretty weird situation for all of us. Many friends around the globe, I think, have suffered greatly. So, but yeah, on a personal level, just me, Jani, it has been quite okay.
That's good, man.
And in terms of the band, I mean, you guys obviously you came out of a pretty lengthy hiatus and motivated, new album in the cards, pretty much like worked on. So how was it when this pandemic hit and everything just got stopped in its tracks?
Well, I was born and raised in Sweden, so that's where I, started Miseration with the singer from Scar Symmetry, Christian Elvestam, like we say in Swedish. And we started Solution 45. So a lot of my musical projects has the base in Sweden, even though I moved to Finland in 2010. So it didn't really shift that much, the work in progress, because we have been working from separate countries for so long already. So that process in itself did not get really affected by the COVID situation, but in other terms it did, like all the economy stuff and labels being a bit hesitant to, invest money and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, our sort of work in progress doing music, and we have been sending material over the net for soon 10 years, so nothing new on that aspect.
Excellent. No, it's quite crazy that like modern technology allows us to collaborate so well.
Yeah.
You mentioned Solution 45 as well, and Miseration. Obviously, that's why we're talking with you today. But you are quite a crazy multi-instrumentalist with like tons of projects. How do you find time for it all? And like all your stuff is really polished and high profile. So time, like how do you get to it all, man?
Well, I had to slow down when my daughter was born. Now she turned 6 this beginning of February. So due to that whole new family situation, I have slowed down quite a lot. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I've always had this drive in me and a real passion for doing music. So basically, before my daughter was born, I practically spent every spare time I had doing something, doing with music, I mean, and either composing or mixing or whatever, and in between working a regular day job and then going out on tour. And so I don't know, I've done that since I was 20 years old. So you just sort of adjust to the situation because that's your passion. And for some reasons, I haven't been able to fulfill my dream to just pursue music like 100%. So I had to take regular day jobs. And so you just have to work around. And I guess the drive has been so significant in my life. So I just sort of make time because I want to do this, and now I got this new idea, so I have to do that. I sort of can't just ignore it. And I guess that's why I've been lucky or blessed to been able to do a few albums by now. But it has I have had to sort of prioritize my days, and when you have family, I'm married, so it's not the same anymore. But still, 2 albums last year is pretty good, I think. Yeah.
Pretty commendable. Pretty commendable. The juggling act of maintaining a family life and still maintaining that almost public persona and that like release schedule that you kind of set on yourself, that's respect in itself, man. So yeah, actually, I think that's a pretty decent segue because, like Alec mentioned, I mean, you've pretty much been involved in a number of bands, and virtually all of those bands have actually been signed to record labels. So I guess kind of a 2-part question again. From your perspective, especially now, like being a little older, a bit wiser, a bit more refined in your styles and how you need to more refined in your style, I should say. How has it been working with the record labels now, as opposed to when you first started?
It has changed drastically, I would say. We just spent talking about this with the Christian when we're trying to get this Miseration album done, and we just walked down, memory lane, how it was like 20 years ago or 15 years ago even, that you if you got signed, you pretty much got a decent budget to work with. And this was before Spotify. And I've been trying to pinpoint the change, sort of, but it has to be when the whole Spotify social media era came, like in its full fruition, you know. That changed the whole ball game for the somewhat not the top tier bands, you know. I've done pretty awesome records, and I've been fortunate enough to have record labels, but I've not been the top tier bands who has this insane budget and insane world tours, and but still like pretty established on the market. And that has changed drastically due to the social media, I think, because everything was so easy to get access to. And at the same time, it became a huge risk for the labels to invest the money in the physical products. We, the bands, cherish the vinyls and CDs and merchandise and, you know, all that you can grab with your physical hands, you know. But it took a deep dive. I will not go into numbers, but we had really awesome budgets like even 6-7 years ago, and that has taken a deep dive again due to COVID and I don't know, different reasons. But then you have these top tier bands who still sort of climb the way upwards. The budgets increases, they are even larger than life, you know, and so it's a pretty big gap between the sort of beginners, and then you have the somewhat sort of established, you are signed but not so secured marketplace, you're still somewhere in between, and then you have these gigantic bands, you know. And but yeah, it has changed drastically, and we're sort of need to fight for every penny, and that leads up to the next thing, that we are actually crowdfunding the Miseration album, because yeah, it's not easy.
100%. You actually, I think, answered one of our questions, which was going to be around the crowdfunding for the Miseration album. But before we get into that, you also touched on Spotify and the rise of like streaming services. So it's quite a good segue into my next question, which is my wife's favorite track by you guys is off your album, Your Demons, Their Angels. It's the very first track, Thrones. And when we were doing our sort of our wedding playlist, we wanted to add that to it on Spotify, and that whole album it's the only album that's not on Spotify. And I was wondering if it's like a label thing or
it's a rights issue, and we asked the previous label to take it down, because that was the only one who which was expiring now. And since we have signed a new deal, we are sort of free to do what we want, and we are now thinking of renegotiate the streaming deals for that album, or perhaps even put it up ourselves, because anyone can do it. So as of today, or a couple of months ago, that deal expired with our previous label. So we own the full rights to that album, but we're still bound with the two following albums. So that's the reason why it's down. And I've got plenty of emails from people asking why it's down, because it's on their playlists, which I didn't realize. I just told the label, yeah, pick it up, just take it away, and we'll rearrange the stuff, you know. And but yeah, still we haven't decided what to do. The thing is, when it comes to streaming deals, those were sort of just done without any negotiations back when Spotify started. They were just sort of combined in a not so open way in the contracts. Nowadays, there's like these own paragraphs in the deals where they actually tell you what the streaming percentage is. So we want to just make sure it's not a millions, but we still want to make sure that we do the right thing, and perhaps it's that we're gonna do it on our own. Maybe we'll see, but it's gonna turn up, I promise.
Cool.
Yeah, and maybe a new line of merchandise to bring back the old cover. It was amazing. It would look amazing on a hoodie. Just saying. I'm just saying, you know. Anyway, all of these things kind of, as you mentioned, we were going to actually interlead into the crowdfunding. You set up an account with Indiegogo, and you guys are about 70% with about 20 days still to go, which is pretty good considering the quick amount of time that this, you know, took to actually get together. So with that kind of in mind, I mean, do you want to maybe embellish a little bit? Because I know you guys did add a few perks now, like signed copies and stuff, to kind of just get you guys over that final finish line before mastering and all of that.
Yeah, well, we knew that it was quite far stretch for us to reach the amount we need. And just to be clear, there's nothing that we sort of gain personally. There's not a penny that goes down my own pocket, so to speak. And really, like, it calculated to the last penny what the studio guy and the mastering session costs for the desired time to do a proper mix. And but we knew that we were in a sort of difficult position since we couldn't offer pre-orders, because that would mean that we buy the CDs ourselves, and that sort of diminishes the income we could take from that. Let's say we would sell a signed CD for a hefty price, $50. Then that means that we would pay maybe 1/3 to the record label, and then the postage, the shipment and everything. So we don't get the 50 euros, so to speak. And so we had to sort of come up with a situation where we don't sort of risk our deal with the label, because they are still the owners of the master when the music is done. They are the owners of the music, so to speak. And yeah, we're sort of pulling everything we could come up with, like, oh, we still have a bit to go. So finding whatever we had in our drawers, you know, I got 3 CDs of that left, signed this, and, you know, whatever we could combine together and sort of get maybe reached that minimum goal at least. And but I think it's pretty good still, you know, showing that we have been away for that long to begin with. It's like, what is it, 8 years ago since the previous album. So that's a pretty long time to be like absent with no records, no live shows, no nothing. And to sort of even have this, you know, devoted following to be willing to sort of give us money in basically nothing in return. Your name on the video is we're like super yeah, words can't explain how really humbled we are by the fact that people are willing to, and then hopefully on top of that buy the album when it's released. So the fans are really the only reason this is possible at the moment. So that's a really humbling situation, but at the same time it gives a pretty good picture of how the record industry looks like today. We got a deal, which means that we have a really, really good distribution network, and the album will be found like across the globe. So that's the positive note. But we had been gone for 8 years. So on the negotiation table, it was like, it's a risk for us because you haven't released anything, no shows, but we're willing to make the sort of the risk taking, and we can offer so and so. And we knew from the get-go that that won't make a record, not even by far, you know, maybe one day in the studio. So yeah, we tried this, and we're super humbled by the whole thing, because you never know. We got a lot of contributions, but we also got some mails where people are complaining why we're not offering, you know, a CD or something. So we did what we could, basically, and yeah. But it looks like we're gonna have
I mean,
yeah.
the support is being shown hard there. I mean, like people don't forget, and I mean, if you kind of think about how more avant-garde Tragedy Has Spoken was, I mean, the samples that were on YouTube from the new album, even just as a raw demo version, not the final master, you can tell it's going to be a very interesting but a very powerful release across a lot of genres again. I think it might be the like a proper evolution for the band. I mean, I think people might be quite pleasantly surprised. I can't wait to hear it. But in terms of the production, do you feel like you evolved as a composer, as a musician in these 8 years? I mean, obviously being involved in back, so to speak, you feel you guys have evolved a little bit?
I think it might sound as a cliche or something, but all the last work you do is always the best. But it's hard to tell, to sort of look at yourself and see. I think I have progressed. I want to think that, at least. Let's put it like this, at least. When I listen to some of my very first recordings, I get a bit even surprised that did I make that kind of riffs, or did I make that kind of choices with the transitions and whatever. And some of them are really cool, that I've sort of feel that, oh, I've lost that sort of how to say, there's no rules, so to speak. I just do whatever I want to in terms of music theory and whatever. They are not there were these passages which were odd time signatures without even planning to be. It was just so much based on feeling or something. The riff went like this, and then afterwards you find out, okay, it was 7-8 notes or something like that. But nowadays I'm maybe more aware of what I'm doing, both theoretically and maybe more knowledge, both for good and worse, or bad. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's for the better, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
but I think I think I'm a better guitarist, at least, than I was, let's say, the first Miseration album. That I can say confidently, that I have obviously and hopefully learned quite a few things along the way, both audio production, but also in terms of playing and being maybe more tight, like quad tracking and that type of stuff is more glued and better today than it was maybe 10 or 15 years ago. So yeah.
Sick. You you're in a ton of projects, as we've like really reiterated, and obviously with all those different projects, I've seen you wield a 6, a 7, and an 8-string guitar. So considering all these different projects, I assume your like home studio is like wall to wall of guitars, and I know it's really difficult. It's almost like asking a parent to pick their favorite child, but do you have a go-to, a favorite guitar in your collection?
I will actually reveal a secret. I have actually sold off pretty much everything that is like what I don't need. I'm not a guitar collector because I would have problems choosing what to use, and I have a problem with investing a lot of money in something that is not used. So if I would have a $5,000 guitar just being in my case for years because it's a good guitar, but I'm not really needing it. So I had quite a few guitars, but and some I regret that I sold off. But I actually only have like what I need. I have a couple of 6 and 7 strings. I have sold my 8 strings because I got tired of that whole thing. And when I had the 8 string, I had never owned a 6 string in my whole career. So I actually bought my 6 string as late as, was it 2015 or something like that. So I've been like doing records since the early 2000s and never owned a 6 string guitar. So I started off with 7 strings and stuff, but now I've found that different tunings with the 6 string combined with 7 string is more versatile than me transferring from 7 strings to the 8 strings. Well, the previous Miseration was done with 8 string, and the last Solution 45 albums. But I grew tired of that thing. I don't know. I didn't hear the mix as I sort of wanted it to be. You have this really low tuned 8 string, but then some of the productions didn't really meet that sort of imagined mix I had in my head or something. So I grew tired of that and felt that the 7 string represented better what I sort of envisioned, and it translated better in whatever projects I was working on.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I think we're going to.
So no massive guitar walls here. Sorry.
That's good. No, that's all good. I think it's good to have your go-tos, and basically that's it. Otherwise, they're just taking up space.
Yeah.
I've got last question for you. Do you have any other words for the fans and Miseration supporters? And what platforms are you the most active on at the moment, social media wise?
You mean Miseration or my bands, or sorry, what was the question?
Do you have anything you want to say to your Miseration fans, or actually any of your fans, any band fans?
Of course. I don't want to say anything. Just will express my gratitude for all the years shown towards me and my bands. Truly fortunate and blessed to have been able to do this at this level I've been doing, and fortunate enough that people actually care about what I do in my little home studio. It's yeah, it was a part of my sort of boy dream as a teenager, and I've been able to pursue that to some extent. And just want to express my gratitude for everyone who has bought my music or ever who I have met on the road. I've been to different places, and I actually deeply cherish them all because they have made it possible for me to continue. Otherwise, I would be a musician alone in my sort of bedroom slash nowadays a studio. But if nobody bought it, nobody would care. So I think I'm pretty fortunate in that aspect. So a big thank you to all. Yeah.
And I'm sure the whole world says a big thank you to you for creating what you have. So yeah, the upcoming album, it's Black Miracles and Dark Wonders. We're almost at the finish line, guys. We'll include a link in the description. Please go support. This is going to be a blaster of an album when it comes out. It'll be worth the wait. So let's help these guys get there. Yeah, Alec, I think we're going to wrap this up for a week. Jani Stefanović. I got it right. Close
enough. Thank you so much, Jani. We really appreciate you taking time out to chat to us. We really wish you the best of luck, and yeah, almost at the finish line, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Can't wait. Thanks for joining. Guys, we'll be back next week with another Lockdown Live chat. That'll be it. Same time, same place on the interweb. Check you guys then.